Have you ever wondered why our age, with so much opportunity and freedom, feels so empty? We have limitless ambitions, yet we are paralyzed in inaction. This is not a coincidence. It is a symptom of a secret war being waged for your soul. You think you're fighting laziness, but in reality, you're fighting a phantom, a philosophy that has taken the modern world captive. Nietzsche not only saw this phantom, he gave it a name: the last man. What you're about to watch is not a self-help video. This is an unveiling. A 3-part revelation designed to show you the enemy you never even knew you had. Don't look away. Don't skip ahead for even a second. Because understanding this phantom is the only way to break its spell and reclaim the fire you thought you had lost. So stay with me. Because by the end of this journey, you won't just understand yourself. You will understand why an entire generation is stuck, and you will be set free. This emptiness is not a coincidence. Now it's time to name the sickness of the soul. Nietzsche gave this sickness a name: the last man. And this being is far more familiar than you think. Diagnosis: the sickness of the last man. Some people live, others just get by. Nietzsche saw this person who gets by a century ago, and he gave him a name: the last man. He's the modern man who flees from great suffering and great achievements, living in search of small pleasures and endless comfort. He has ambition, but lacks the courage to climb the mountain. He desires the summit, but fears getting tired on the way. This sickness first reveals itself with a false hope, with a curtain of constant postponement. Has it ever happened to you, waking up saying, "I'm starting today," and still not starting? This is the promise of someday, the primary refuge of the last man. Every utterance of someday actually means not today. It is taking refuge in the future to escape the risks of today. For Nietzsche, this is the will's greatest betrayal of itself. Because potential doesn't wait, it fades. Life isn't lived someday. Life is lived now. And when we say not today, we have to fill the void of today with something. Have you ever asked yourself, while getting lost in those meaningless videos, what am I actually trying to forget? Distraction's the drug of the last man. It is the anesthetic used to suppress the silent scream of your ambitions, the unsettling whisper of your potential. Nietzsche saw that those who chase these small, fleeting pleasures would never taste great, lasting victories. This escape is often hidden behind a noble excuse, waiting for the perfect moment. Do you think this is a strategy or a perfect excuse? Waiting for perfect conditions is, according to Nietzsche, an illusion. A trap set by the mind to avoid the responsibility of action. To say, "I'm not ready," is a way of saying, "If I fail, it's not my fault." The perfect moment will not arrive, because the perfect moment is created, with will and with action. But these postponements and excuses feed a deeper, darker mechanism: the masterful art of self-deception. The phrase, "I'm just being realistic," is the last man's most clever lie. It is to cloak cowardice with the mantle of wisdom. Now ask yourself, am I not starting because I'm truly being realistic, or because I'm afraid? True will accepts reality as it is, and fights in spite of it. The last man, however, uses reality as a shield to avoid the fight. This mantle of wisdom not only justifies our own inaction, it also launches a silent war against those who do act. Do you recognize that unsettling voice inside you when you watch someone else's courage? That criticism is the poison that flows in the veins of the last man. Nietzsche calls it resentment, the secret, passive hatred of the weak for the strong, for the one who dares to do what they do not. The courage of others is like a disquieting beacon that illuminates your own chains. And if these escapes and deceptions become a way of life, the sickness reaches its final, most tragic stage: the slow suffocation of our potential by the whispers of comfort. When did the fire inside you turn to a pile of ash? This is the silencing of the soul, the most insidious symptom. A person begins with great ambitions, but then slowly gives up. The fire turns to ash. They no longer fight, they just get by. This is a slow spiritual death. This is to be silently depleted on that invisible line between surviving and living. And the first step to breaking the silence is to hear your own voice again. Maybe as a whisper, maybe just the shadow of a scream, but that voice is still there, and it is waiting to ignite. But who silenced this voice? What happened that made a life meant to begin with courage turn into a waiting game postponed with caution? The answer isn't just in you. It's in the system, in morality, in the herd. The root cause, the invisible chains of the herd. You've seen the symptoms. Maybe one of them burned you silently. But let me tell you a secret. This is not your fault. This is an invisible armor forced upon you the moment you were born. And the name of that armor is the herd. From the moment we are born, we are placed in an invisible prison that Nietzsche calls herd morality. The walls of that prison are not as far as you think. In fact, it might be what you're leaning on right now. The first and most polite-looking wall of this prison is being constantly taught to be a good person. Compliant, kind, helpful. But have you ever considered what this goodness costs? Herd morality dislikes individual brilliance, sharp edges, dangerous ambitions. Because the herd wants predictable and controllable members. Your desire to be a good person is often your fear of being cast out by the herd. You lower your voice so as not to disturb others. And in the end, you become someone loved by all, but who has given up on being themselves. This mask of the good person most of all targets a healthy sense of self, that is, the ego. You were told that being ego-driven is a bad thing, but a healthy ego, that is believing in yourself, knowing your own worth, is dangerous for the herd. That is why they turned the word ego into an insult. For Nietzsche, however, a strong self is the prerequisite for self-realization. Once our identity is suppressed in this way, the herd draws us into its glittering but empty traps. These are the modern age's false stations, built to divert you from your own path. On social media, you watch everyone's perfect life and compare it to your own. This is an act that poisons your will. According to Nietzsche, to look at another's path is to betray your own journey. The moment you compare, you have strayed from your path. Stop and think. How many times have you forgotten to live your own life while watching the lives of others? This is the tragedy of modern man. Not losing his way, but never knowing what his way was in the first place. And to escape this tragedy, there is another drug invented by modern man: aimless busyness. People choose to occupy themselves with 10 things to escape the hardest question, because confronting it hurts. Business is the armor we wear to avoid thinking. Nietzsche sees aimless business as one of man's greatest forms of self-deception. This is not productivity, it is an escape. And if we are caught in these traps, our last refuge is actually the most dangerous one. That safe hell where growth stops, but pain is no longer felt, and the soul slowly freezes. People work for years in jobs they dislike. Why? Safety. But for Nietzsche, the greatest danger is safety, because safety prevents growth, challenge, and self-overcoming. Those ships don't rot in the harbor. They die there, rusting. The promise of this safe harbor is the ultimate goal of the last man: constant and uninterrupted happiness. But according to Nietzsche, this is the greatest trap, because the constant pursuit of happiness pushes one to flee from pain, hardship, and struggle. Yet it's precisely these hardships that build character, strength, and wisdom. If you make happiness your goal, you will never climb the slopes that make you strong. But if you do climb, the view you encounter at that summit is not just a reward. It is a mirror that reminds you of who you are. It takes courage to look into this mirror, because sometimes in that mirror you see the chasm between the person you want to be and the person you are. So how is this chasm crossed? The answer isn't outside, it's inside. And that answer is hidden not just in new habits, but in a new way of being. The cure, igniting the fire within. We've made the diagnosis. We've understood the source of the sickness. Now we come to the most important act, the cure. But this is not a simple prescription. This is not about acquiring new habits. This is to bury oneself and to birth a new one from the ashes. This is to kill the last man inside you and in its place create the being Nietzsche called the Übermensch, the one who overcomes himself. So where does this awakening begin? Not with the fight, with acceptance. This is the foundation of the cure. Love your fate, that is, amor fati. Embrace everything that has happened in your life, not just the good, but the pain, the failure, the disappointment. If only as a phrase you must abandon. They are a part of you. Instead of fighting them, understand them. See them as the steps you will use to overcome yourself. Amor fati is not passive acceptance. It is an ecstatic yes to all of life. The moment you love your fate, you are no longer its victim. You now have the power to tear up the map the herd gave you. The herd told you what is good and what is bad. Now is the time to question it. Like a lion, have the courage to say no to all the you musts imposed on you. And then, like a child, create your own values, your own rules of the game. The day you write your own morality, the prison walls begin to crumble. To create new values is to redraw the map, yes. But a map, no matter how beautiful, gets you nowhere if you don't have the courage to walk the terrain. And that terrain is not comfortable. Comfort is the poison of potential. So consciously choose discomfort. Whatever you are fleeing from, look it in the face today. Reply to that email. Make that call. Take that first step. Small discomforts are rehearsals for breaking bigger chains. For Nietzsche, the will is like a muscle. The more you challenge it, the stronger it gets. Begin to see discomfort not as a punishment, but as training. This training in discomfort not only strengthens your will, it also shows you what is holding you back. And to grow, you must first destroy some things. The habits, the beliefs that hold you back. This can be painful, but like a sculptor carving a block of marble, you must chip away what's excessive, what does not belong to you. Remember, the phoenix must first burn to be reborn from its ashes. Do not carry your pain. Lift it like a hammer. Forge yourself with it until you shape your character, until those broken places become the cracks where the light gets in. And when you have forged yourself enough with this hammer, when you have passed through pain and destruction, the final step arrives, to become a destiny. You no longer let life happen to you. You become your life. Your decisions, your actions, your values are so strong that you are no longer a leaf tossed in the wind, but the wind itself. You take full responsibility, and this responsibility is the greatest freedom. Now you know that the weariness inside you is not a character trait, but a choice. That fighting against the comfort trap of the modern world is a choice. Nietzsche's diagnosis is terrifying, yes, because it places all responsibility back on you. But it is also incredibly liberating, because if the sickness is a choice, then the cure is also a choice. So ask yourself this question: which choice will you make today? Will you lie silently in the tomb of comfort? Or will you ignite the fire within and step into a life of self-overcoming, with all its pain, its struggle, and its glory? Don't give the answer, show it. If this fire has sparked something inside you, if you have felt that you are not alone in this war, then act. Connect with other people who understand this philosophy and who are fighting. In the comments, write which truth shook you the most. And if you want to continue on this journey of awakening, subscribe, because that giant is still asleep. But now it is time for it to awaken.